Hello everybody, welcome to Mini-Masterclass with me, Sam Boydell. And we're going to start the series off with another technical video, which is, should we calibrate our plugins? Well, yes, you certainly should. And the reason why we want to do that is because, firstly, the hardest thing that people have when making music is to achieve dynamics within their music. And not just volume level, but certainly like the depth and dynamics of our music in the way that we play it and everything like that, right? Now, as composers, I highly recommend that all the things that we do together and you do yourself are based off the idea that we want to remove all technical aspects of making music so that we can really feel it. We can play it in, we can do all these things naturally, and then at the end of it, we've got this amazing sounding mix, rather than playing in lots of stuff and then mixing later and then struggling. So the way to do this is, like my first video, the reason why I did a mix template walkthrough in great detail is because I have a system which is set and forget, and part of that is calibrating our plugins. So set and forget means that when I come to make music, I open up the template and all of the mixing side of stuff is already 95% there. It's very rarely going to change. I may change a few parameters here and there, but I don't want to change anything because it works in the way that I need it to work. So if I open up Logic here and just show you a basic calibration, we've got a compressor. So we're not calibrating every plugin, we're just calibrating the ones that we have in our sort of the end of our template. So it's the stereo buses, it's a drum bus and things like that. And so I've got up the Better Maker. Now, most plugin manufacturers are creating copies of the hardware, and the hardware will run at minus 20 dB. We, as digital music makers, are operating at 0, right? So there's a big difference there, 20 dB to 0. And often what we'll end up doing as music makers is you play an instrument or an audio track in to a compressor and it's playing it in at like 5 to 0 dB, right? Minus 5 to 0. So we're 15 dB out already. So in order for us not to have to bring the volume up and down as we're playing, this is why we calibrate. So if you were to copy the hardware and how the manufacturer probably made the plugin, you'd get a test oscillator at 1000 Hertz, minus 20 dB, get up your compressor, and you'd adjust the threshold to the amount of decibel reduction that you want for each of your compressors as a default, and then you'd adjust the gain, input and outputs so that the meter is reading exactly the same amount of volume going in as is coming out the other end. That way, when we play music in at a certain level, it will be calibrated to that, right? Now, I do go one step differing from the mix engineers that are online, right? The famous mix engineers who have told me about this. Now, what they have that's different is they're not composers of music, right? Or music producers. So they'll receive music that's been really well recorded or not, but it'll be at a certain volume. They drag it into their template and they adjust the audio files on the basis of what they want to hear. It's different for us as composers because we're playing music in as we go. We need to feel the music back without the template restricting us. So it's taken quite a while for me to find a place where I can navigate those two fields. So the way that I look at it is that as a composer, I don't work at minus 20. I don't work at 0 dB either. I work at minus 14. Or minus 14 LUFS anyway, which is the Spotify, YouTube range or set benchmark. Minus 23 is Netflix and BBC and stuff like that. So I'm only ever going to get quieter. I'm very rarely going to get louder than -14. And, a pop mix will be at -9 or something like that. So they're going over and above than I would ever really get to. And the more you reduce the amount of volume that's going into a lot of things, the better those things will sound. Certainly in terms of like compressors. Actually, when you feed them only a small amount of volume, they react better. So rather than -20, I've got everything going to -14. And certainly on my mix bus, everything is channeling through there. So I need everything that goes in -14, comes out at -14 with very small adjustments depending on what I want these things to do. So what does this achieve? It means that I can sit down and I can listen to YouTube and Spotify and all these different things at set volume that I'm used to hearing in my room out of these speakers. Then, when I come to making music, I don't have to think about volume because I know instinctively something's too loud or too quiet. I've got too much bass or whatever it might be. All these minor, effects minor adjustments that you make to your music as you're going through just feel very natural. Some people will literally never touch their volume knob on the computer because they want to be able to know that they hear things back at the right level and they can adjust, bearing in mind what they're feeling, not what's technically going on. Again, to reiterate, I'm a composer, so I make music. So the differing part there is that I will have to adjust the volume on my computer. But I know that as I do that, in the background, all of these systems are working in favour of me. And it's very, very rare that I get to the end of a composition and I have to adjust much of the volume I definitely don't adjust the volume of the whole mix at that point. I mean, it's basically in the ballpark. I may be playing with the limiter right at the end and I'm adjusting 1 or 2 dB. In particular, what I used to do a lot of before I'd set up these sort of systems perfectly enough, I'd have to get to the end of a mix and I'm just suddenly yanking the gain of the limiter up to 8 dB because I'm -8 dB short. We don't want that. We want to be in a position where the limiter, all the limiter's doing is just that plugin's broken. Is just doing 1, dB. It's just clipping it at the top, and everything else that we've done is building towards that. And I tell you what, at the end of that, once that had been achieved, all my mixes from that point on were wider, they were louder, they were more dynamic, they were more exciting. So, very important, and I'll see you at the next time. Ta-ra.